The large Roman ships arrived from the sea, laden with spices from the east. The big cargo ship sailed from the southwest coast of India with 500 tons of precious stones, perfumes, essences and silk, but above all, pepper, worth more than gold at that time. Thus recounts Mohammed Gad to the young Ababda Muhammad. He is teaching him to become a guide. Reaching the Red Sea at the port of Bernice or Mios Hormos further north, the precious wares continued their journey overland, crossing the desert in very long caravans. Hundreds of camels and asses passed right through here in Wadi al-Gemal, the Valley of Camels. Young Muhammad is a child of this land. It was his own ancestors, the Ababda Bedouins, who guided the caravans by night. For them, this boundless desert never had secrets. They could read the stars. They knew where to find a place to quench their thirst, then as now. After a 300-kilometer crossing lasting 7 to 12 days, the precious cargo reached the Nile. It continued downriver, helped along by the current, to arrive at the great port of Alexandria on the Mediterranean, and then on to Rome and the whole empire. It is the large bed of a river that in the remote past descended from the mountains of Jabal Hamata and flowed into the Red Sea. It was fed by a thick web of tributaries that carved secondary valleys. A year has passed since the last rain. The mornings follow one after the other under an unchanging sky. Even in the natural reserve of brackish water at Bir Sartut, at the feet of the mountain of Jabal Hamata, one of the rainiest regions, at an elevation of 456 meters, water stocks are running out. Sparse tufts of curved reeds and a handful of sheep crowd silently around the last puddles. The low humidity still permits the adaptation, at Wadi al-Gemal, of more than 140 species of plants, resident and migratory birds, reptiles, foxes, gerbils, gazelles, and the extremely rare Nubian ibex from the mountains. "120 kilometers of nearly pristine coast, hemmed with mangroves, standing watch over the submerged world of corals. Their aerial roots, sticking vertically out of the sediment, can filter seawater, whose excess salt is expelled by the leaves. It is an ideal habitat for hundreds of animal species. There are no oases in this desert. At the outlet of the large Wadi, a few palm trees are the result of a slow-motion explosion from seeds coming from God knows where. Since 2003, Wadi al-Gemal has been a national natural park. Mohammed Gard was its director for many years and now works as a consultant for environmental projects. Mohammed Gard is not an Ababda Bedouin. He was born in Egypt, in Qusair, but his family has its origins in Saudi Arabia.
When I started the bee rangers in this area, in the eastern area, in Elba National Park are here, the first step I take with us Ababda to help us to do the baseline study, to survey for animals, for plants, for everything. And after that, we'll take all the resource and put it in map. To zoning map, what is the area is very here is very important. Where is the wells? Where is the water? Where is the plants? Where is the geologically unique? Where is everything to help us to decide if this is open for the visitor or this is closed, because it's very important. I think this is I use it Ababda and Bisharia, of course, in the south in Elba. This is the people is very, very good people to help us how to manage and how to do the maps and how to do the everything. Actually, I learned from him, everything for our life, for our jobs, take it from the Ababda and Bisharia.
With no mediation by Mohammed or by people with experience equal to his, it would be impossible to move about this desert, covering nearly 5,000 square kilometers. He knows all the Ababda families and their values, and has great respect for their way of thinking and living. The Ababda are nomads. They live close to their flocks, in crude shelters at the feet of the desert's hills, or beneath rare acacias. About 3,000 are at Wadi al-Gemal, but they do not enjoy uniting in large communities. Family nuclei keep their distance, spreading over a vast territory. Women are tasked with caring for the animals, typically sheep and goats, that have become easier to raise today. Only rarely are they aided by dogs. Camels provide milk and meat, but above all symbolize the family's well-being and prestige, and are offered as a gift to brides. When the pasture can no longer provide food for their animals, families move elsewhere. They almost always have the same places of reference, which they choose on the basis of the yearly rains. Communities always know where the others are. Some of the family's members move towards the coast to fetch water, which they keep in small cisterns, or food. They live on very little. If one person has a problem with another, the solution is never personal. It is a chief who has to assess the issue and dictate the right solution. If he is unsuccessful, he has to turn to a higher level chief. This form of hierarchical organization guarantees the maintenance of peace and a balanced management, over time, of the scant available natural resources. Water above all, which can be drawn from only 10 wells, 4 of which for human use too. The well is managed by a family responsible for keeping the water at all times clean, available and carefully rationed for animals and people. For the Ababda tribes, it is severely forbidden to harm nature. For example, cutting down a tree is a decision made by the community, and the essential condition for doing so is that it already be dead. Cutting down a live acacia, a precious source of food and shade for animals and people alike, could result in exile. The dead trees are used to produce charcoal to cook food. Diabetes is treated with desert dates, and red acacia resin is used to alleviate stomach acid. Salvadora persica yields powerful diuretics and a hard wood used to clean teeth. These people have a deep knowledge of themselves, of nature, of the sky and of the water cycle. They have a familiarity with one another and a capacity for sharing we have forgotten today. In so many things, we are perhaps more vulnerable. The Ababda are a proud and peaceful people, shy but hospitable. The typical sign of welcoming guests is to offer them coffee. The green beans are first roasted in a small pan, then ground, then boiled over acacia embers, because they do not use gas for cooking.
محمود ايه تمام يلا عشان نعمل خيمه عشان الناس بتسال كده خلاص تمام من بكره نبتدي
Lastly, the coffee, sweetened and flavoured with ginger, is served to each guest in small cups, always in an odd number. Women, especially if not very young, are kept under protection. But Ahmedani is experienced with outsiders and unafraid of showing his daughter, 21 years of age, who is to be married in a few months. Marriage between youths of different tribes was once uncommon. It's more frequent now, especially among tribes that already have social relations. The essential nature of life is summed up in bread. Bread sates hunger. It is a carrier of identity and a sign of alliance, of union among families and cultures. Preparing it is a job that both men and women can be called upon to do. They knead wheat flour with water and a pinch of salt and bake it under the embers. Until recently, these Bedouins were not recorded in the census. Now, almost all of them are. The rains are diminishing at an ever-increasing rate, and pasture lands are shrinking accordingly. Tourism, then, may be an important resource for these tribes' survival. The government is also promoting the transfer of this people of the desert to new homes on the coastline, introducing mandatory schooling for both boys and girls, and providing new occupations. But the Ababda always return to their desert tents, at the center of their own selves. Hussein Saleh is the sheikh of this area's big tribe, the chief of Abu Ghzoon, the only new village with homes built on the coast, to which the Ababda have agreed to move.
أبو غصون تعدادها 350 أسرة، فيها مجالات الراعي والصياد، هي مهنتين الأساسيتين اللي الناس اللي تربت عليهم وعاشت بيها. في جزء لسه موجود في الصحراء لحد دلوقتي عايش على موضوع الأمطار والراعي وامتلاك المواشي والإبل والأغنام. الجزء البسيط هو الناس المتوارثة برضو شغل السياحة. دلوقتي التفتت جزء جديد اللي هو جالهم موضوع السياحة ده دلوقتي الناس بتحاول تندمج في السياحة لأنه على طبيعتها موجودة حاجة متوارثة موجودة على طبع العادات والتقاليد بتاعت الناس. بتيجي تشوف الناس دي عايشة ازاي، قاعدة ازاي، بتعرف الناس عندها علم في النجوم، عندها علم في الأيام، عندها علم في الأمطار، عندها علم من واقع الطبيعة. وما قراش لكن لقي حكاوي موجودة واسمه ده وحاجات متوارثة من أبا عن جد. كان بيحكوا عن فترة الصيف ازاي، فترة الشتاء ازاي، فترة المواسم، المطر امتى، الخريف امتى. دي ليها كلها بيعرفوا يعدوها عن الشهور القمرية مش الشهور الميلادية.
Islam is a marine biologist. He directs the Social Cultural Association Abu Ghzoon, which promotes integration and development programs that aim both to improve craft skills and the Ababda's living conditions, and to enhance the cultural experience of the tourists who visit the coast, leading them to learn about certain itineraries and life models in the desert. A cycling itinerary has been opened, assisted by a young Ababda cyclist and an adult man, Farag, who follows the group by car. Mount Talaya is the destination of a different route that teaches that unspoiled nature is a necessity for the soul. Upon descending, the shade of a tent beckons. Ahmedani and his family welcome the group with generosity. In order to communicate with outsiders, some Ababda study Italian and will soon begin with German. There's also a beekeeping program for honey production, an activity that has never existed before in this region and that might yield some income for Ababda families. The cleanliness of the environment is very important to Islam and Muhammad.
Another project, it's a kind of recycling because one of our problem here is the plastic. Time by time we do a cleanup campaign by the schools, university, and sometimes by the guests themselves. Later on, we try to telling the people not to use plastic anymore. Maybe we can replace it by papers. We start with the small kids in the schools, and they will transfer that to the families at homes.
Teaching new craft activities, higher in quality and social utility, is another important goal of the association. Women are learning tailoring. New machines have come to the village handicraft school. The instructor, Girgis, is teaching how to use them to sew smocks for school children. Soon, he'll teach women how to work clay. This is new knowledge because there is no ceramic tradition here. Everything's imported from the Nile Valley.
Opportunity will be equal for men and women, but it's according to the project. For example, if we're speaking about the guiding thing, it should be for men. It's not accepted here that the women are guiding a group of people. If we go to the handmade craft and tailor, it's for women. Okay, the traditional it's equal for us, but some works are for men, other works are for women. Like here, we are in a tent here. Okay, Ahmadani is helping us and give us present the service of coffee, tea, in anything, cold water. So it's men work. Women work usually are going with the handicraft made things and teaching kids at home. The honey project, it's both men and women, because this work doesn't need any kind of power.
Young Mohammed is 17 years of age. Ababda youths look younger than they really are. He doesn't yet speak a language other than his own, but his desire for contact with people from the outside grows day after day. Older Mohammed instructs him in everything to allow him to become a guide. He leads him on the discovery of undateable ancient rock depictions. And then ancient Roman caravan routes, punctuated every 30 kilometers by stops with supply stations, wells and cisterns that required payment of a toll. Small forts and lookout towers protected the territory traversed by precious cargoes. He reveals to him the vestiges of mining cities from the times of Ptolemy, housing those who mined olivine, a gemstone similar to emerald. Hundreds upon hundreds of dry stone houses, and at their edge, a temple excavated into the rock. Villages of these dimensions allow us to imagine a different landscape, certainly less burnt and thankless than today's. Under the guidance of Mohammed and his Italian friend Gianni, who comes from the mountains of South Tyrol, the first new hiking trails are outlined amid the highlands. The ceramic fragments dispersed on the terrain suggest that some of these transit ways were already used in remote times. No customs house, no wall, no limit exists today for these families. Only perennial movement, a continuous compensation. There is no wealth. And yet, the Ababda do not wish to leave all this. They are unwilling to migrate to faraway lands. No testimony of their history and culture has ever been written by the Ababda, and nothing has ever been written about them. What does their cultural compromise consist of? Peace and greater economic well-being will over time lead them to change their life, to let themselves be shaped by new economies and social models. Living conditions will certainly be better, but perhaps many bonds will be lost, as has happened to many of the world's other minorities that have been integrated. To what extent will they wish to defend their traditions and identity? The current development projects make them leading players in telling and creating their own story. A story that is not extinguished, but needs the right time. All people carry on the earth their own hopes, their own dreams, their own imaginary adventures. There are those who nurture them with the progress of technology, and those who are in perennial movement in the immobility of the desert, who are recognized from afar. Whoever fails to accept this duality is lost.